Hey, you there. Picture this, you're riding your bike down the street. The wind is blowing through your hair, and you feel so free, like nothing can stop you. That's me, Jake. I'm 14 years old, and I've got this awesome electric bike. It's super fast, super quiet, and it's my way of having fun every single day. I love zooming around my neighborhood, feeling like I'm on a big adventure. To me, it's the best thing ever. But guess what? Not everyone thinks my bike is as cool as I do. Especially not this lady named Karen. She's part of something called the HOA, which is like a group that makes rules for our neighborhood. Karen watches everyone like a hawk, like she's got eagle eyes and never misses a thing. Before we get started with this crazy story, I've got something fun for you to do. Drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from today? Are you at home? At school? Somewhere else? And hey, if you like stories where the little guy beats the odds and comes out on top, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. Now, here's a question for you to think about. Have you ever met someone who acts like they're the boss of everyone? Maybe it's a kid at school who tells everyone what to do, or an adult who thinks they're in charge of the whole world. Well, Karen's one of those people. And let me tell you, this story has a twist, a big surprise that you're not gonna see coming. So stick around, because it's about to get wild. Okay, let's jump into what happened. It all started on a sunny afternoon. The sky was bright blue, the sun was shining, and there wasn't a cloud anywhere. Perfect day for a bike ride, right? I hopped on my electric bike, pushed the pedal, and off I went, zoom. The wheels hummed quietly as I rode down the street, feeling like a superhero speeding through the neighborhood. My house is on a little road with lots of trees and nice yards. Kids play outside sometimes, and people walk their dogs. It's a pretty normal place. But that day, it didn't stay normal for long. I was minding my own business, just enjoying the ride. My bike's not loud like a motorcycle, it's smooth and sneaky, which makes it extra fun. I was going past this one house with a super neat yard. The grass was cut perfectly, like someone used a ruler to make every blade the same size. The bushes were trimmed into little squares, and there wasn't a single weed anywhere. That's Karen's house. She's always out there fussing over it, like it's the most important thing in the world. So there I was, riding by, when all of a sudden, Karen stepped out from behind one of her perfect bushes. She had her arms crossed tight over her chest, and her face looked mad, like really mad. She stared at me like I'd just done something awful, like kicking her dog or breaking her window. But I hadn't done anything. I was just riding my bike. She pointed at me and yelled, "That thing's a menace." Her voice was loud and sharp, like a teacher scolding you in front of the whole class. I slowed down a little, surprised. A menace? My bike? It's just a bike. Sure, it's electric, so it goes faster than a regular one, but it's not dangerous or anything. I didn't get why she was so upset. I mean, I wasn't hurting anyone. I wasn't even near her yard. But Karen didn't care. She kept glaring at me, her eyes narrow and her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked like she wanted to chase me down herself. I didn't say anything back. I just kept pedaling, pretending I didn't hear her. But inside, I was thinking, what's her problem? This wasn't the first time she'd yelled at me. Karen had been grumpy about my bike for weeks. Every time I rode by, she'd find something to complain about. One day, she said it was too fast. Another day, she said it was too quiet, like that was a bad thing. I didn't understand why she hated it so much. To me, it was just fun. To her, it was like I was breaking some big rule. But here's the thing, Karen didn't know everything. She thought she was so smart, always bossing people around, telling them what they could and couldn't do. She'd walk around the neighborhood with this little notebook, writing down stuff she didn't like, someone's grass being too long, or a car parked in the wrong spot. She acted like she was the queen of the street. And me? I was just a kid on a bike, someone she could pick on. That sunny afternoon, when she called my bike a menace, I didn't think much of it at first. I figured she'd yell for a bit, then go back inside to water her flowers or something. I kept riding, turning the corner so I wouldn't have to see her anymore. The wind felt good, and I tried to forget about her angry face. But deep down, I was a little annoyed. Why did she always have to ruin my fun? I wasn't bothering her. I wasn't breaking anything. I was just a kid enjoying his bike. Little did I know, that day was different. Karen wasn't just gonna yell and let it go. Oh no, she had a plan. And she thought she was so clever, like she was about to catch me doing something wrong and be the big hero of the neighborhood. But here's the funny part, she had no idea what was really going on. While she was busy glaring at me and my bike, something else was happening, something she never saw coming. And trust me, it was gonna turn everything upside down. See, I'm just a regular kid. I go to school, I do my homework, well, most of the time, and I like hanging out with my friends. My electric bike is my favorite thing because it's different. It's not like the bikes my friends have, the ones you pedal all the time. Mine's got a little motor that helps me go faster without getting tired. My dad got it for me last summer, and I've been riding it ever since. It's silver with red stripes, and it looks so cool. When I ride it, I feel like I'm in a movie, speeding off to save the day. But Karen? She didn't care about any of that. To her, my bike was trouble. She'd stand there in her yard, wearing these big sunglasses and a floppy hat, watching me like I was some kind of criminal. Sometimes she'd even talk to the other neighbors about me. I'd hear her say stuff like, "That boy's gonna hurt someone," or "We can't have things like that around here." It made me mad, but I didn't know what to do. She was an adult, and I was just a kid. What could I say? That day, though the sunny one where she yelled menace, it wasn't just another day of her grumbling. It was the start of something bigger. I didn't know it yet, but Karen was about to get herself into a mess she couldn't talk her way out of. And me? I was just along for the ride, literally. As I pedaled away from her house, I could still feel her eyes on me. It was like she was burning a hole in my back with that stare. I turned down another street, where the houses were a little farther apart and the trees were taller. It was quieter there, and I liked it. I could ride without anyone bothering me. Or so I thought. The neighborhood I live in is pretty small. Everyone knows everyone, and most people are nice. There's Mr. Thompson, who always waves when he's mowing his lawn. There's Mrs. Carter, who gives out cookies sometimes. And then there's Karen. She's not like the others. She doesn't wave or smile. She just watches and complains. I don't know why she's like that. Maybe she's lonely. Maybe she just likes being mean. I don't get it. Anyway, back to that afternoon. After Karen yelled at me, I kept riding for a while. I went past the park where some kids were playing soccer, and I waved at my friend Tim, who was kicking a ball around. He shouted, "Cool bike, Jake," and I grinned. At least someone thought it was awesome. I rode a big loop around the neighborhood, enjoying the day. The sun was warm, and everything felt good except for Karen's voice still ringing in my ears. When I got closer to my house, I decided to take one more spin past Karen's street. I don't know why, maybe I just wanted to see if she'd gone inside yet. Big mistake. As soon as I turned the corner, there she was again, standing on her porch this time. She had her phone in her hand, and she was talking to someone. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but she kept pointing at me while she talked. Her face was all scrunched up, like she'd just bitten into a sour lemon. I slowed down, wondering what she was up to. Was she calling my parents? The school? I didn't think I'd done anything bad enough for that. But then I saw her put the phone to her ear and start pacing back and forth. She looked even madder than before. I got a funny feeling in my stomach, like something big was about to happen. And I was right, but not in the way I thought. Karen didn't know it, but that phone call wasn't going to go the way she wanted. She thought she was in control, like always. She thought she could boss me around and make me stop riding my bike. But the truth was, she was the one who was about to get a big surprise. And it all started with that sunny afternoon, when she stepped out of her yard and called my bike a menace. I kept riding, trying to shake off that weird feeling. The wind picked up a little, and it felt nice against my face. I told myself not to worry. Karen was just being Karen, grumpy and loud, like usual. I didn't think she could really do anything to me. I mean, it's just a bike. How much trouble could it cause? But as I rode away, I didn't see what was happening behind me. I didn't see the police car that had pulled up a few streets over. I didn't know that someone else had been watching Karen, not me, but Karen. And I definitely didn't know that her big plan to get me in trouble was about to backfire in the funniest, most unexpected way. That's how it all started. A kid on a bike, a lady who hated it, and a day that seemed normal but wasn't. I was just trying to have fun, but Karen was about to turn it into something way bigger. She thought she was the smartest person around, but she didn't have a clue what was coming. And me? I was just happy to be riding my bike until everything flipped upside down. So what do you think so far? Crazy, right? That's just the beginning. Stick with me, because this story's got more surprises up ahead. Karen thought she could win, but she didn't know the cops were already onto her. How's that gonna play out? You'll find out soon. Okay, so you've met me, Jake, and my awesome electric bike. And you've heard about Karen, the HOA lady who doesn't like me or my bike one bit. But let me tell you, Karen wasn't just loud when she yelled at me. She was mean, too. Really mean. Every single time I rode by her house, she'd find something to say. It was like she had a list of grumpy things ready to shout at me, and she never ran out of ideas. Picture this, I'd be riding along, the sun shining, the wind blowing, just having a good time. My bike would hum quietly as I went down the street. Then, out of nowhere, Karen's voice would boom like thunder. "You're breaking the rules," she'd yell. Or sometimes, "That bike's too dangerous for a kid like you." She'd stand there in her yard, hands on her hips, staring at me like I was some kind of troublemaker. I didn't even know what rules she was talking about. My bike wasn't loud. It didn't crash into anything. It was just a bike. But to Karen, it was like I was riding a monster or something. She didn't stop at yelling, either. Oh no, she had this little book, her HOA handbook. It's like a rule book for the neighborhood, and she treated it like it was the most important thing ever. She'd wave it in the air when I rode by, shaking it at me like it was a magic wand that could make me disappear. "It says right here," she'd shout, even though I was too far away to see what she was pointing at. I don't think she cared if I saw it or not. She just wanted me to know she was the boss, or at least, she thought she was. Most people in the neighborhood didn't pay much attention to her. I'd see Mr. Thompson mowing his lawn, and he'd just roll his eyes when Karen started yelling. Mrs. Carter, the nice lady with the cookies, would shake her head and keep walking her little dog. They all knew Karen was loud and bossy, and they didn't let it bother them. But me? I wasn't so lucky. For some reason, Karen picked me as her favorite target. Every time she saw my silver bike with the red stripes, it was like a switch flipped in her head. She'd go from grumpy to super grumpy in 2 seconds flat. It wasn't just a one-time thing, either. This went on for weeks. Every day, I'd ride my bike because it's what I love to do. And every day, Karen would find a way to make it not fun. One time, she stood on her porch and shouted, "You're gonna crash that thing and hurt someone." Another time, she said, "Kids like you shouldn't have toys like that." Toys. My bike's not a toy, it's my way of getting around. But Karen didn't care what I thought. She just kept yelling, her voice echoing down the street like a siren. Then one day, things got even worse. I was riding by her house like usual. The sun was high in the sky, and it was hot out, so I was going a little slower than normal. I didn't want to get all sweaty before I got home. Karen must have been waiting for me, because the second she saw me, she marched right out of her yard. She didn't stop at the edge like usual, she came all the way to the street, right in front of me. I had to hit the brakes so I wouldn't bump into her. My bike stopped fast, and I put my feet down to balance. Karen stood there, so close I could see the wrinkles on her mad face. She pointed her finger right at me, almost touching my nose. "I'm calling the cops if you don't get rid of that bike," she snapped. Her voice was sharp, like a teacher who's really mad at you. Her eyes were wide, and her cheeks were red, like she'd been holding in that yell all day just waiting for me to show up. I stared at her, not sure what to say. The cops? For real? Over a bike? That sounded crazy to me. I didn't want her to see I was upset, though. So I just smiled like a little whatever smile and said, "Okay, Karen." Then I pushed off with my feet and pedaled away as fast as I could. My bike zoomed down the street, and I didn't look back. I could hear her yelling something behind me, but the wind in my ears drowned it out. I didn't care what she said. I just wanted to get away from her. But here's the thing, even though I acted cool on the outside, inside I was mad. Really mad. What had I ever done to her? Nothing. I didn't ride my bike on her grass. I didn't crash into her mailbox. I didn't even talk to her unless she yelled at me first. All I did was ride by her house on the street, a street that's for everyone, not just her. Why did she hate me so much? Why did she hate my bike? It didn't make any sense. As I rode away that day, my heart was beating fast, not because I was scared, but because I was annoyed. I kept thinking about her pointing that finger at me, saying she'd call the cops. It made me feel like I was doing something wrong, even though I knew I wasn't. My bike's not against the law. My dad checked when he bought it for me. It's allowed on the streets, just like a regular bike. But Karen didn't care about that. She acted like she made the rules, and I was breaking them just by existing. I turned the corner and rode toward the park, trying to calm down. The park's a good place to go when I'm upset. There's a big field where kids play, and some trees I can sit under if I want to chill out. I slowed down and coasted along, letting the breeze cool me off. I told myself to forget about Karen. She was just a mean lady who liked to yell. She couldn't really do anything to me, right? That's what I thought, anyway. But I didn't know the whole story yet. See, Karen wasn't just mad at me that day. She was up to something bigger. When she said she'd call the cops, she meant it. She wasn't joking around. She really thought she could get me in trouble and make me stop riding my bike forever. She was so sure she was right, so sure she could win. But here's the secret she didn't know, she was digging herself into a hole. A big, deep hole she couldn't climb out of. I didn't see it at the time, but something was brewing, like a storm getting ready to hit. It wasn't just about me and my bike anymore. Karen had other problems she didn't even know about yet. While she was busy yelling at me and waving her little rule book, something else was going on in the neighborhood. Something big. And it was gonna come crashing down on her, not me. Let me tell you more about Karen, so you get why this was such a mess. She's not just some random lady who lives down the street. She's the kind of person who thinks she's in charge of everything. She's tall and skinny, with short hair that's always perfect, like she just got it cut. She wears these big sunglasses that make her look like a movie star, but not in a cool way, in a bossy way. And she's always got that HOA handbook with her, like it's her best friend. Karen's house is the fanciest one on the block. The grass is so green it looks fake, and the bushes are trimmed into perfect shapes like cubes and balls. She's out there all the time, watering flowers or pulling tiny weeds no one else can even see. If you walk by, she'll stop and stare at you, like she's checking to make sure you're not breaking her rules. And if she thinks you are, watch out. She'll come running over with that book, telling you what you're doing wrong. The other neighbors don't like her much. I've heard them talk about her when she's not around. Mr. Thompson says she's a pain in the neck. Mrs. Carter calls her that nosy woman. One time, I heard someone say Karen used to be nice, but something changed a long time ago. Now she just bosses everyone around. She's even got a sign in her yard that says HOA President, like it's a big deal. Maybe it is to her, but to me, it just means she's extra annoying. So when she started picking on me and my bike, it wasn't a surprise to anyone. That's just how Karen is. She sees something she doesn't like, and she tries to stop it. But with me, it was different. She didn't just complain once and let it go. She kept going, day after day. It was like she made it her mission to get rid of my bike. And that day she got in my face, pointing and yelling about the cops. That was the worst it had ever been. After I rode away, I kept thinking about what she said. Calling the cops sounded serious. I mean, the police don't come for little stuff, right? They're for big things, like robbers or car accidents. Not a kid on a bike. I started wondering if she could really do it. Could she call them and say I was bad? Would they believe her? I didn't think so, but it still bugged me. When I got home, I parked my bike in the garage and went inside. My mom was in the kitchen making dinner, and I thought about telling her what happened. But I didn't. I didn't want her to worry, and I didn't want her to tell me to stop riding. So I just grabbed a glass of water and sat at the table, pretending everything was fine. But in my head, I kept seeing Karen's mad face and hearing her voice. "I'm calling the cops," she'd said. It stuck with me, like a song you can't get out of your mind. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. It was dark outside, and I could hear crickets chirping through my window. I kept thinking about Karen and her threat. Part of me wanted to laugh, she was so over the top. But another part of me was mad. Why did she have to ruin my fun? I loved my bike. It made me happy. And she was trying to take that away, just because she didn't like it. It wasn't fair. The next day, I decided to keep riding. I wasn't gonna let her scare me. So I hopped on my bike and went out again, same as always. I rode past the park, past Mr. Thompson's house, and yep, past Karen's street. She was out there, of course, watering her flowers. When she saw me, her head snapped up, and she glared. I waved, just to mess with her a little, and kept going. She didn't yell that time, but I could tell she was still mad. Her lips were pressed tight, like she was holding back a big shout. I thought maybe she'd given up. Maybe she was tired of yelling at me. But I was wrong. Karen wasn't done, not even close. She was planning something. She really did want to call the cops, just like she said. She thought she could get me in trouble and make everyone see she was right. But here's the thing she didn't know, the cops weren't gonna care about my bike. They had bigger stuff to worry about. And that stuff? It was all about Karen. See, while she was busy pointing fingers at me, something else was happening. The neighborhood wasn't as quiet as it seemed. People were watching not me, but her. Karen thought she was the one in charge, the one who could boss everyone around. But she didn't know she was the one in trouble. She was making a big mistake, and it was gonna come back to bite her. I didn't know any of that yet, though. I just kept riding my bike, trying to enjoy my day. Karen's mean words stuck with me, but I pushed them away. I told myself she was just a grumpy lady who didn't matter. But deep down, I had a feeling something was coming. Something big. And it wasn't about me, it was about her. She was digging a hole, like I said, and she didn't even see it. So that's where things stood. Karen was loud and mean, yelling at me every chance she got. She waved her rule book, got in my face, and threatened to call the cops. I was mad, but I kept going, thinking I could ignore her. But the tension was building, like when you stretch a rubber band tighter and tighter until it snaps. Something was gonna happen. And when it did, it was gonna be a surprise to everyone, especially Karen. Alright, so you know how Karen was already loud and mean, yelling at me about my electric bike every chance she got. Well, things didn't stop there. Oh no, they got worse. A lot worse. Days went by after she got in my face and threatened to call the cops, and instead of calming down, Karen turned into some kind of neighborhood detective. But not a good one, a grumpy, sneaky one who was always watching me. Picture this, I'd ride my bike down the street, just like always. The sun would be out, the birds would be chirping, and I'd be having a great time. My silver bike with the red stripes would zoom along, quiet as a whisper. But then I'd get near Karen's house, and there she'd be standing on her porch like a guard. She wasn't just yelling anymore. Now she was watching me ride, her eyes following me like I was some kind of bad guy in a movie. And she wasn't quiet about it either. She'd mutter stuff into her phone, holding it up to her ear while she stared at me. I couldn't hear everything she said because I was moving fast, but I caught little bits of it. One time, I heard her say illegal vehicle. Illegal? My bike? That's crazy. It's just a bike with a little motor, not some big, loud machine. Another time, she called me a troublemaker. Me. I'm not the one standing on a porch yelling at people, I'm just a kid riding around. But to Karen, I was the worst thing ever. She'd talk into that phone like she was reporting a crime, and I'd just keep pedaling, trying to pretend she wasn't there. It didn't stop with the muttering, though. One day, it got even creepier. I was riding by her house, and I saw her holding her phone up not to her ear, but pointed at me. She was taking pictures. I could see her tapping the screen, snap, 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 like she was collecting proof or something. It gave me the chills. Why would she need pictures of me? What was she gonna do with them? I mean, it's just me on my bike, not some secret spy or anything. Creepy, right? I turned my head quick and rode faster, hoping she didn't get a good shot of my face. But even with all that, I kept my cool. I didn't yell back or stop to ask her what her problem was. I just kept riding, figuring she'd get tired of it eventually. People can't stay mad forever, can they? That's what I told myself. Karen would give up, go back to watering her perfect flowers, and leave me alone. At least, I hoped so. So every day, I'd hop on my bike and ride anyway. I wasn't gonna let her scare me off. My bike was too much fun, and the neighborhood was my place to explore. The days turned into weeks, and Karen didn't stop. If anything, she got sneakier. Sometimes I'd see her peeking out her window instead of standing on the porch. The curtains would move just a little, and I'd catch a glimpse of her face, those big sunglasses and that frown. Other times, she'd be out in her yard pretending to pull weeds, but I knew she was really watching me. She'd glance up every time I rode by, her head turning like a robot locking onto a target. It was like she'd made it her job to keep an eye on me. I started wondering what she was up to. Was she really gonna call the cops like she said? Was she taking those pictures to show someone? Maybe she was telling the HOA people I was bad news. I didn't know, but it made me a little nervous. Not scared, just annoyed and curious. I'd ride past her house and think, what's she saying about me now? I even started taking different streets sometimes, just to avoid her stare. But my neighborhood's not that big, so I'd always end up near her place sooner or later. Then one afternoon, something weird happened. I was riding my usual loop past the park, down by Mr. Thompson's house, and back toward Karen's street. It was a normal day, warm and sunny, with a few clouds floating around. I was feeling good, the wind in my hair, my bike humming along. As I got closer to Karen's house, I saw her on her porch again, muttering into her phone like usual. I rolled my eyes and kept going, ready to zoom past her. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something strange. A police car was driving down the street right next to Karen's house. It wasn't going fast like they do when there's an emergency. No, it was moving slow, real slow, like the cops inside were looking at something. The car's lights weren't flashing, and I didn't hear any sirens, but it still caught my attention. I slowed down a little, watching it roll by her house. The windows were dark, so I couldn't see who was inside, but it gave me a funny feeling. I thought, that's weird. Why would a police car be here, creeping along like that? My first guess was maybe someone finally got tired of Karen's yelling and called the cops on her. I mean, she was loud enough to wake up the whole neighborhood sometimes. I grinned a little, imagining Mr. Thompson or Mrs. Carter picking up the phone and saying, "Can you make her stop shouting?" That'd be funny, right? Karen getting in trouble for being so bossy. But I didn't stick around to find out. I wasn't gonna stop and stare like some nosy kid. I had my bike, and I wanted to keep riding. So I pushed the pedals harder and zoomed off, leaving Karen and that slow police car behind. I figured it was nothing big, maybe the cops were just driving around, keeping an eye on things. I didn't think it had anything to do with me or my bike. And I definitely didn't think it was the start of something huge. I was clueless, just riding along, enjoying my day. Karen didn't know what was coming either. She was too busy watching me, muttering into her phone, taking her creepy pictures. She thought she was so smart, like she had everything under control. She probably thought that police car was there because of her. Maybe she'd already called them about me, and they were coming to check it out. That's what I'd have thought if I were her. But nope. That car wasn't about me at all. It was about something else, something Karen didn't see coming. As I rode away, I couldn't shake that funny feeling. The police car stuck in my mind. It wasn't normal to see one moving that slow around here. Our neighborhood's quiet, nothing big ever happens. Kids play, dogs bark, people mow their lawns. That's it? So why were the cops here? I started making up little stories in my head. Maybe they were looking for a lost dog. Or maybe someone forgot to park their car right, and Karen had complained about that too. I laughed to myself, thinking she'd probably call the cops on a squirrel if it crossed her yard the wrong way. I kept riding, turning down a street with big trees that made a shady tunnel over the road. It was cooler there, and I slowed down to enjoy it. My bike's motor purred softly, and I leaned back a little, letting my hands rest easy on the handlebars. I told myself to forget about Karen and the police car. It was probably nothing. She'd keep muttering and taking pictures, and I'd keep riding. That's how it'd been for weeks, so why would it change now? But deep down, I knew something was different. I couldn't explain it, it was just a feeling, like when you know a storm's coming even though the sky's still clear. Things were building up. Karen was getting worse, not better. She wasn't giving up like I'd hoped. If anything, she was doubling down, getting sneakier and madder every day. And that police car? It wasn't just a random thing. It meant something. I didn't know what yet, but it made me wonder. The next day, I went out riding again. I wasn't gonna let Karen stop me, no matter how creepy she got. The sun was out, and I took my usual route. When I got near her house, she was there, big surprise, standing on her porch with her phone. She didn't take pictures this time, but she watched me like a hawk. I waved, just to bug her, and she scowled. I laughed and kept going, feeling a little brave. She could glare all she wanted, I wasn't scared of her. But then I saw something else. Not a police car this time, but a man I didn't know. He was walking down the street, a few houses away from Karen's. He had a clipboard in his hand and was looking at the houses, writing stuff down. He didn't look like a neighbor, his clothes were too fancy, like a suit but not quite. I slowed down, curious. Who was he? Was he with the HOA too? Or maybe the city? I didn't stop to ask, but it added to that weird feeling I had. Something was going on. I rode past him, and he didn't even glance at me. He was too busy looking at Karen's house, scribbling on his clipboard. I thought, maybe he's checking her perfect yard. She was always bragging about how great it was, maybe someone was finally gonna tell her it wasn't perfect enough. That'd make her so mad. I grinned at the idea and kept riding, turning the corner to head home. When I got back to my house, I parked my bike in the garage and went inside. My mom was watching TV, and I plopped down on the couch next to her. I didn't tell her about Karen or the police car or the clipboard guy. I didn't want her to ask questions. But I kept thinking about it all. Karen's muttering, her pictures, that slow police car, and now this stranger. What did it mean? Was it all connected? Or was I just imagining things? That night, I lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling. The crickets were loud outside, and a breeze came through my open window. I replayed everything in my head. Karen was getting worse, meaner, sneakier. She wasn't giving up. And those little things I'd seen, the police car, the clipboard guy, were like puzzle pieces I couldn't fit together yet. I didn't know it, but I was right about one thing: a storm was coming. A big one. And it wasn't gonna hit me, it was gonna hit Karen. She had no idea. She thought she was winning, thought she could scare me off with her phone calls and pictures. She thought she was the boss of everything, like always. But those small revelations, the police car, the man with the clipboard, were hints. Hints that something bigger was brewing. I didn't see the whole picture yet, but I could feel it. Things were about to change, and Karen was in for a shock she'd never expect. So there I was, just a kid on a bike, trying to have fun. And there was Karen, watching me, plotting, thinking she had it all figured out. But the real story? It was sneaking up on her, quiet like my bike's motor. I kept riding, clueless about what was next. And Karen? She kept muttering, clueless that the real trouble wasn't me, it was her. What do you think was going on with that police car? And who was that guy with the clipboard? Was Karen finally gonna get what she deserved? Keep reading, because this story's about to get wilder. Okay, hold on tight, because this is where everything goes boom. It all happened on a Saturday, a bright, sunny Saturday that started out normal but turned into the wildest day ever. I was just a kid, cruising down the street on my electric bike, feeling the wind in my hair. My bike hummed quietly, and I was smiling, thinking about how fun it was to ride. The neighborhood was quiet, with kids playing in their yards and birds chirping in the trees. It felt like any other day until Karen showed up and flipped everything upside down. I was riding past her house, like I'd done a million times before. My silver bike with the red stripes zoomed along, and I wasn't even thinking about her. But then, out of nowhere, Karen stormed out of her yard like a tornado. She didn't just walk, she practically ran into the street, her phone clutched tight in her hand. Her face was red, her eyes were wild, and she started screaming at me louder than ever. "That's it," she yelled. "I'm calling 911 on you and that stupid bike." Her voice was so loud, it echoed off the houses. I could see her thumb jabbing at the phone, dialing so fast I heard the little beeps beep, beep, beep. She held it up to her ear, glaring at me like I'd just ruined her whole life. I slowed down, then stopped my bike right there in the street. I hopped off, putting one foot on the ground, and just stared at her. My heart was beating a little fast, but I wasn't scared. I was mostly annoyed. Go ahead, lady, I thought. Call them. Waste their time. I didn't think she'd really do anything big. I mean, it's just a bike. Karen paced back and forth, her flip-flops slapping the pavement. She was talking into the phone now, her voice sharp and fast. "Yes, hello. I need the police right now," she said. "There's a kid here with a dangerous bike, breaking all the rules." I rolled my eyes. Dangerous? Breaking rules? She was making it sound like I was some kind of bad guy robbing a bank, not a 14-year-old riding down the street. I crossed my arms and watched her, waiting to see what would happen. Part of me wanted to laugh. She looked so silly, waving her arms and yelling about my stupid bike. But then whoop whoop, a noise cut through the air. It was a police siren, short and loud, like a quick chirp. My head snapped around, and my eyes got wide. A police car was right there, parked across the street, just a few houses down from Karen's. I hadn't even noticed it before. The doors opened, and two cops stepped out. One was tall with a serious face, and the other was shorter with a little smile, like he'd seen this kind of thing 100 times. They started walking toward us, their boots clicking on the pavement. Karen saw them too, and her whole face changed. She stopped pacing, and her eyes lit up like she'd just won a giant prize like the lottery or a big stack of candy. She dropped her phone to her side and pointed at me with her other hand, her fingers shaking a little. "Arrest him," she shouted, so loud I bet the whole neighborhood heard. "He's a danger to this neighborhood. That bike's illegal, and he's been terrorizing everyone." Terrorizing? Me? I almost laughed out loud. I'd been riding my bike, not scaring anyone. I looked at the cops, wondering what they'd do. Would they really listen to her? My stomach did a little flip, but I stayed calm. I mean, I hadn't done anything wrong. They couldn't arrest me for riding a bike, right? I stood there next to my bike, waiting, watching the cops come closer. The taller cop stopped a few steps away and looked at Karen. He didn't say anything at first. He just raised one eyebrow, like he was confused. Karen kept pointing at me, her mouth open, ready to yell more. But before she could, the tall cop spoke. His voice was deep and slow, like he wasn't in a hurry. "Ma'am," he said, "we're not here for the kid." Karen froze. Her pointing hand dropped a little, and her mouth snapped shut. "What?" she sputtered, like she couldn't believe her ears. Her eyes darted from me to the cops, back and forth, like she was trying to figure out what was happening. I was confused too. If they weren't here for me, then why were they here? I glanced at the shorter cop, who was pulling something out of his pocket, a piece of paper. The shorter cop stepped forward, holding up that paper so we could see it. He looked right at Karen and said, "Karen Mitchell." She nodded, still looking lost. "We've got a warrant for your arrest," he went on. "Turns out you've been dodging taxes and harassing half the neighborhood. We've been watching you for weeks." My jaw dropped. It literally fell open, and I stood there staring like a fish out of water. Her. Karen. The HOA queen who acted like she owned everything? She was a criminal? My brain couldn't keep up. Dodging taxes? Harassing people? And the cops had been watching her for weeks? I looked at Karen, and her face was turning white like all the color just drained out of it. She didn't say anything for a second. She just stood there, blinking fast, like she was waiting for someone to say it was a joke. But it wasn't a joke. The taller cop pulled out a pair of handcuffs, shiny silver ones that clicked when he opened them. The shorter cop kept talking, his voice calm but firm. "We've got complaints from a lot of people," he said. "You've been sending letters, making calls, threatening folks over silly stuff. And the tax thing? That's a big deal. You can't just skip paying what you owe." Karen finally found her voice. "This is a mistake," she shouted, her hands flying up. I'm not the problem here. He is. She pointed at me again, her finger wobbling. That bike's the real crime. I was just trying to keep this neighborhood safe. Her voice was high and squeaky now, like she was panicking. The tall cop shook his head. Ma'am, that bike's not our concern, he said. You are. Step over here, please. He motioned with his hand, telling her to come closer. Karen didn't move at first. She just stared at him, then at me, then at the handcuffs. Her mouth opened and closed, like she wanted to argue but didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe it. The cops were already here for her. Not me, not my bike, but Karen. All this time, she'd been yelling at me, taking pictures, muttering into her phone, thinking she was so smart. She thought she could call 911 and get me in trouble. But the whole time, the police were watching her. They'd been parked right there, waiting for the perfect moment. And now, she was the one in handcuffs, not me. The shorter cop stepped closer to her, holding the paper up again. We've got proof, he said. Letters you wrote, calls you made, even some stuff from your taxes. It's all here. You're coming with us. Karen shook her head fast, her hair bouncing. No, 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 she said. This can't be right. I'm the HOA president. I make the rules. The tall cop didn't even blink. Not anymore, he said. He reached out, took her arm gently but firmly, and turned her around. Hands behind your back, please. Karen's shoulders slumped, and she looked like she might cry. The handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists, click, click, and just like that, she was caught. I stood there, still holding my bike, watching it all happen. My heart was pounding, but not because I was scared anymore. I was shocked and a little excited, if I'm honest. Karen, the lady who'd been so mean to me, was getting arrested. Right in front of me. I couldn't stop staring. Her perfect yard, her big sunglasses, her bossy attitude, it didn't matter now. She wasn't the queen of the neighborhood anymore. She was just a lady in trouble. Neighbors started peeking out. I saw curtains move in windows, and a couple of people stepped onto their porches. Mr. Thompson was there, leaning on his fence, watching with a little smile. Mrs. Carter poked her head out her door, her dog yipping at her feet. They all saw it, Karen, the HOA lady, getting taken away by the cops. I bet they were as surprised as I was. Karen kept talking, her voice getting louder. You can't do this, she said. I was protecting everyone. That kid's the real problem. She twisted her head to glare at me, her eyes full of fire. But the cops didn't even look my way. The shorter one just said, "Save it for the station, ma'am," and started walking her toward the police car. I couldn't help it, I grinned. Not a big, loud laugh, just a little smile. This was too good. All those days of her yelling at me, calling my bike a menace, threatening me with the cops, and now she was the one in trouble. I looked at my bike, leaning on its kickstand, and thought, you're safe, buddy. Karen couldn't touch it now. The tall cop stayed behind for a second while the shorter one led Karen away. He glanced at me and nodded, like we were cool. Nice bike, he said. Don't worry about her. She's been causing problems for a while. Then he turned and followed his partner. I watched as they opened the car door and helped Karen inside. She was still arguing, her voice muffled now, but it didn't matter. The door shut, and that was that. My jaw was still hanging open. I closed my mouth and shook my head, trying to make sense of it all. Karen a criminal. Dodging taxes. Harassing people? I didn't even know what dodging taxes meant exactly, something about not paying money you're supposed to, I guess, but it sounded bad. And harassing half the neighborhood? That part I believed. She'd been harassing me for weeks. I thought back to all the little clues: the police car I'd seen rolling by her house, slow and quiet. The man with the clipboard, writing stuff down. They must have been part of this, watching her, collecting proof. While Karen was busy taking pictures of me and muttering into her phone, the cops were watching her. She thought she was so clever, calling 911 to get me in trouble. But the whole time, they were already here, parked right across the street, ready to grab her instead. It was like a movie, a big, crazy twist I never saw coming. Karen had been so sure she'd win. She'd stormed out, dialed 911, screamed about my bike, thinking the cops would take her side. And for a second, when that siren chirped, I'd wondered too. But then bam, the truth hit. They weren't here for me. They were here for her. The HOA queen, the lady who acted like she owned the whole street, was the real bad guy. As the police car started to pull away, I saw Karen's face through the window. She looked mad, scared, and confused all at once. Her big sunglasses were slipping down her nose, and her perfect hair was messy now. She didn't look like a boss anymore, she looked like someone who'd lost everything. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I remembered all the times she'd yelled at me, pointed her finger, called my bike stupid. Nope, I didn't feel bad. She'd picked on the wrong kid. The car drove off, slow at first, then faster as it turned the corner. The hoop hoop sound faded, and the street got quiet again. I stood there, holding my bike, still trying to wrap my head around it. The cops were gone. Karen was gone. And me? I was still here, free to ride wherever I wanted. I looked around. The neighbors were whispering now, talking to each other across their yards. Mr. Thompson gave me a thumbs up from his fence. Mrs. Carter waved, her little dog barking like crazy. I waved back, feeling like I'd just won something big. And in a way, I had. Not a prize or a trophy, but something better. Karen couldn't boss me around anymore. I kicked up my bike stand and climbed back on. The seat felt good under me, and the handlebars were warm from the sun. I pushed off, pedaling slow at first, then faster. The wind hit my face, and I grinned bigger than ever. My bike wasn't stupid, it was awesome. And Karen? She wasn't the queen of anything now. She was just a lady in a police car, heading off to face whatever she'd done. That Saturday started like any other day, but it ended with the biggest surprise ever. Karen thought she could get me, but she got herself instead. The cops were already here, not for me, but for her. My jaw might have dropped, but my heart was jumping. This was at the moment everything flipped. And I was right there to see it all. Okay, so you just saw the big twist. Karen, the HOA lady who'd been so mean to me, got caught by the cops right in front of everyone. It was wild, and now it's time to tell you what happened after that crazy moment. Things didn't just stop when the handcuffs clicked shut, oh no, they got even better. Justice was served, and I was there to see it all. Let's dive in. Karen's face was a mess of colors when the cops told her she was the one in trouble. First, it went red, like bright, angry red, the kind you see when someone's super mad. She stood there, her hands behind her back, yelling at the top of her lungs. "This is a mistake," she shouted, her voice cracking like she couldn't believe what was happening. "I'm the victim here. You've got the wrong person." She twisted her head around, looking at the cops, then at me, then back at the cops, like she was begging someone to agree with her. But nobody bought it. Not the cops, not me, not even the neighbors who were starting to peek out. The tall cop just shook his head, calm as could be, while the shorter one held her arm to keep her still. They'd heard her excuses already, and they weren't falling for it. I mean, she'd been dodging taxes, whatever that means. It's bad, and bugging half the neighborhood with her bossy ways. The proof was right there on that piece of paper the cop held up. Karen could yell all she wanted, but she wasn't wiggling out of this one. I was still standing next to my bike, leaning on it with one hand. My silver bike with the red stripes looked shiny in the sun, and I felt pretty good just watching this all go down. Neighbors were popping up everywhere now, like little heads poking out of windows or stepping onto porches. Curtains twitched, doors creaked open, and I could hear soft whispers floating across the street. They were talking about Karen, for sure. I bet they were just as shocked as I was. Mr. Thompson was over by his fence, his arms crossed, watching with a tiny grin. Mrs. Carter stood on her porch, holding her yappy little dog, her eyes wide like she couldn't believe it. Even some kids from down the street stopped kicking their soccer ball to stare. Everyone was looking at Karen, the HOA queen, getting taken away in handcuffs. It was like a show, and I had the best seat in the house right there with my bike. I tried not to laugh. I really did. My lips twitched, and I bit the inside of my cheek to keep it in. It wasn't nice to laugh at someone in trouble, but after all the times Karen had yelled at me, pointed her finger, and called my bike stupid, it was hard not to feel a little happy. She'd been so mean, so sure she could boss me around, and now she was the one in a mess, not me. It felt fair, like the world was finally making sense. The cops didn't waste time. The tall one kept his hand on Karen's arm, guiding her toward the police car parked across the street. She didn't go quietly, though. "I'm not the bad guy," she kept saying, her voice loud and whiny. "That kid's the problem. His bike's dangerous." She tried to point at me again, but with her hands cuffed behind her, she couldn't. She just jerked her head my way, her big sunglasses slipping down her nose. Her hair was all messy now, sticking out in weird places, and she didn't look so fancy anymore. The shorter cop opened the car door, and the tall one helped her sit in the back seat. She was still talking, her words tumbling out fast. "You'll see. This is wrong. I'm the one who keeps this place nice." But the cops didn't answer. They'd heard enough. The shorter cop shut the door with a loud thunk, and Karen's voice got quieter, muffled behind the glass. I could still see her mouth moving, but I couldn't hear what she was saying anymore. For once, she couldn't yell at me or anyone else. Then something cool happened. As the tall cop walked around to the driver's side, he stopped for a second and looked at me. He nodded, like we were buddies, and said, "Nice bike, kid. Keep riding." His voice was deep and friendly, and it made me feel awesome. I grinned big and gave him a thumbs up, my hand high in the air. "Nice bike, kid." Those words stuck with me. The cop liked my bike. Karen could hate it all she wanted, but this guy, a real police officer, thought it was cool. That was way better than anything she could say. I looked back at the car. Karen was glaring at me through the window, her eyes narrow and mad. She couldn't say a word now, not with the door shut and the cops in charge, but that look said everything. She was furious, probably blaming me for all of this. But I didn't care. She couldn't do anything about it. For once, she was the one in trouble, not me. I just stood there, leaning on my bike, and gave her a little wave. Not a mean wave, just a tiny one, like, "See ya, Karen." Her glare got even madder, but then the car started moving, and she was gone. The police car rolled down the street, slow at first, then picking up speed. The tires hummed on the pavement, and the red and blue lights on top stayed off. No sirens this time, just quiet. I watched it turn the corner and disappear, taking Karen with it. The street got still again, like nothing had happened, but it felt different. Lighter, somehow. Like the air was cleaner without her barking at everyone all the time. I took a deep breath and looked around. The neighbors weren't whispering anymore, they were talking louder now, walking over to each other's yards. Mr. Thompson called out to Mrs. Carter, "About time someone did something about her." Mrs. Carter nodded, her dog still yipping like crazy. "She's been a pest for years," she said back. A couple of kids ran over to me, their soccer ball bouncing behind them. "Did she really get arrested?" one of them asked, his eyes big. I nodded. "Yup. Right here in front of me." They laughed and ran off, probably to tell their friends. I stayed where I was, my bike next to me, soaking it all in. The neighborhood felt a little freer without Karen around. She'd been like a dark cloud, always hanging over us, ready to rain complaints and rules on everyone. She'd yell at me about my bike, bug Mr. Thompson about his grass, tell Mrs. Carter her dog barked too much. Nobody could do anything without her sticking her nose in it. But now, that cloud was gone. The cops had taken it away, and the sun felt brighter because of it. I thought about all the stuff Karen had done to me. The yelling, the pointing, the creepy pictures she took with her phone. She'd called my bike a menace, said it was dangerous, threatened to call the cops over and over. And that day, the big Saturday, she'd finally done it. She'd stormed out, dialed 911, screamed about me like I was some big problem. She thought she'd won. She thought the cops would show up, grab me, and tell me I couldn't ride anymore. But instead, they grabbed her. It was so funny when you thought about it. She'd been so sure she was right, so sure she could scare me off. But the whole time, she was the one breaking rules, real ones, not just her silly HOA stuff. Dodging taxes. Harassing people? That's way worse than riding a bike. The cops had been watching her for weeks, they said. All those times she was muttering into her phone, taking pictures of me, acting like she was the boss, they were watching her. Not me. Her. I kicked up my bike stand and sat on the seat, letting my feet rest on the ground. I ran my hand over the handlebars, feeling the smooth metal. My bike wasn't the problem, it never had been. Karen just didn't like it because it was different, because it was mine, because she couldn't control it. But now she couldn't control anything. She was in the back of that police car, probably still yelling, but it didn't matter. She couldn't touch me or my bike anymore. The street was buzzing now. More neighbors came out, talking and laughing. Mr. Thompson walked over to me, his hands in his pockets. "Good riddance," he said, nodding toward where the police car had gone. "She's been a thorn in my side forever. Always complaining about my lawnmower being too loud." He chuckled, and I smiled back. "She didn't like my bike either," I said. He laughed louder. "Well, I like it. Keep riding, Jake." Mrs. Carter came over too, her little dog tugging at its leash. "I can't believe it," she said. "Arrested? And right here on the street?" She shook her head, then looked at me. "You okay, Jake? She was awful to you." I nodded. "I'm fine. She's gone now." Mrs. Carter smiled. "Good. Maybe we'll all get some peace around here." Her dog barked, and she scooped it up, walking back to her house. I stayed there a little longer, watching everyone. The kids were back to kicking their soccer ball, shouting and running like nothing had happened. The grown ups were still chatting, their voices mixing with the sound of birds and a lawnmower starting up somewhere. It was like the neighborhood woke up after a long nap. Karen had been the one keeping it tense, and now that she was gone, it felt better. Freer, like I said before. I thought about what the cop had told me. "Nice bike, kid. Keep riding." That made me happy. He didn't think my bike was stupid or dangerous, he thought it was nice. And he was a cop, so he knew stuff. Karen could glare from that backseat all she wanted, but she couldn't stop me now. I was free to ride wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. No more yelling, no more threats. Just me and my bike, zooming down the street like always. The sun was starting to dip a little, turning the sky orange and pink. I decided it was time to head home. I pushed off on my bike, pedaling slow at first, feeling the wheels roll smooth under me. The wind hit my face, and I grinned again. This was what I loved, riding, feeling free, having fun. Karen had tried to take that away, but she couldn't. She'd lost, and I'd won, not because I did anything big, but because she'd messed up all on her own. As I rode past Karen's house, I looked at it. The perfect grass, the trimmed bushes, the little HOA president sign in the yard, it all looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. She wasn't there to glare at me or wave her rulebook. The porch was empty, the windows dark. It was just a house now, not a grumpy lady's castle. I kept going, turning the corner toward my place, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. When I got home, I parked my bike in the garage and went inside. My mom was in the kitchen, stirring something that smelled good, maybe spaghetti. "Hey, Jake," she said, looking up. "You okay? You're smiling a lot." I nodded. "Yeah, I'm great. Something funny happened today." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? What?" I thought about telling her everything, Karen, the cops, the handcuffs, but I decided to keep it simple. "Karen got in trouble," I said. "She won't bug me anymore." Mom laughed. "Good. She's been a grump forever. Dinner's almost ready, go wash up." I ran to the sink, still smiling. I didn't need to tell her all the details, she'd hear about it from the neighbors soon enough. Everyone would. Karen's big arrest was gonna be the talk of the street for days, maybe weeks. That night, I sat at the table, eating spaghetti and listening to the quiet. No yelling outside, no phone calls from Karen complaining about me. Just the sound of forks on plates and my little sister talking about her day. It felt normal, better than normal. I went to bed later, lying under my covers, thinking about it all. Karen's red face, her white face, her yelling that it was a mistake. The cops shutting her down. The neighbors whispering. The thumbs up from Mr. Thompson. Justice was served that day. Karen had been mean to me, to everyone, for so long, and now she was facing the consequences. She couldn't boss us around anymore. She couldn't yell at me about my bike or bug anyone else about their yards or dogs. She was gone at least for now, and the neighborhood was ours again. I closed my eyes, picturing my bike in the garage. Tomorrow, I'd ride it again. And the day after that, and the day after that. No more glares from Karen, no more threats. Just me, the wind, and the open street. The cop was right, keep riding. And I would. The neighborhood felt freer, happier, and I was part of that. Karen had lost, and we'd all won. All right, you've made it to the end of this wild ride. So there you have it, a kid on a bike, a nosy Karen, and a twist that flipped everything upside down. It's pretty cool how it all turned out, right? I'm Jake, just a regular 14-year-old who loves riding my electric bike, and Karen was this grumpy HOA lady who thought she could boss me around. But in the end, she was the one who got caught, not me. It's funny how things work. Sometimes people who act like they're perfect can be the ones hiding the most. Let's talk about that and wrap this up with something to think about. Think back to how it all started. I was just riding my bike down the street, feeling the wind, having fun. My silver bike with the red stripes was my favorite thing. It made me feel free, like I could go anywhere. But Karen didn't like that. She'd yell at me, call my bike a menace, take pictures, and even say she'd call the cops. She acted like she was the best, like she knew everything and could tell everyone what to do. Her yard was perfect, her rules were strict, and she walked around like she owned the whole neighborhood. To her, I was just a kid causing trouble. But then bam, that big twist hit. The cops showed up, and they weren't there for me. They were there for her. Karen had been dodging taxes and bugging people, and they'd been watching her for weeks. She thought she was so smart, calling 911 on me, but it backfired big time. They put her in handcuffs, drove her away, and left me standing there with my bike, free to ride again. It was like a movie where the bad guy gets caught, and the good guy wins, except I didn't even have to do anything. Karen messed herself up all on her own. It's funny when you think about it. Karen acted like she was perfect, like she never did anything wrong. She'd stand on her porch, wave her rulebook, and glare at me like I was the worst kid ever. But the whole time, she was hiding stuff. She wasn't paying what she owed, and she was mean to so many people, not just me. The neighbors knew it, the cops knew it, and in the end, everyone saw it. She wasn't perfect at all, she was just good at pretending. And when the truth came out, she crashed and burned, just like a car running out of gas. That's the thing about people who act like they're better than everyone else. They might look big and tough on the outside, but sometimes they're hiding something messy on the inside. Karen thought she could boss me around, scare me off my bike, make me feel small. But I didn't let her. I kept riding, kept smiling, kept doing what I loved. And guess what? She's the one who ended up in trouble, not me. It makes you wonder how many other Karens are out there, acting all high and mighty, when really they're the ones who need to watch out. So here's something for you to think about: next time someone tries to boss you around, don't let it get you down. Maybe it's a kid at school telling you what to do, or a grown-up acting like they're in charge of everything. Just smile and keep going. Keep being you, doing what you love, like I did with my bike. You never know, they might be the ones who crash and burn, not you. People who act perfect usually aren't, and sometimes life has a way of showing that. Karen learned it the hard way, right in front of me and the whole neighborhood. Let's picture it one more time. Me, standing there with my bike, watching the police car drive away. Karen's mad face in the window, her hands cuffed, her big sunglasses slipping. The neighbors whispering, the street feeling freer. And that cop saying, "Nice bike, kid. Keep riding." That's what I'll remember most, the moment I knew I'd won, not because I fought back, but because I didn't give up. Karen tried to stop me, but she couldn't. She fell, and I kept going. That's pretty cool, right? Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all this? Ever had a Karen moment in your life? Maybe someone tried to boss you around or tell you something you love is bad. Did they get what they deserved, like Karen did? Drop it in the comments below, I'd love to know. And if you liked the story, if it made you laugh or cheer or just kept you reading, give it a thumbs up. It's fun knowing you're out there enjoying it with me. This whole thing taught me something big. You don't have to be loud or mean to win. You don't have to fight every battle or yell back at every grumpy person. Sometimes, just keeping on with what you love is enough. I loved my bike, and I kept riding it, even when Karen made it tough. And in the end, that was all I needed. She crashed because of her own mess, not because I pushed her. That's a pretty awesome lesson, don't you think? Imagine if I'd stopped riding. If I'd let Karen scare me off, parked my bike in the garage, and never touched it again. I'd have missed all this, the big twist, the justice, the freedom that came after. I'd have let her win, and she didn't deserve that. But I didn't stop. I kept going, and it worked out better than I could have dreamed. So whatever you love, riding a bike, drawing pictures, playing games, don't let anyone take it away. Keep doing it, and you might be surprised how strong you really are. Karen's gone now, at least for a while. The neighborhood's quieter without her barking at everyone. I ride by her house sometimes, and it's just a house, no yelling, no glaring, no phone pointed at me. The grass is still perfect, but it doesn't feel like her castle anymore. It's just part of the street, like every other place. And me? I'm still here, zooming around, feeling the wind, grinning like always. That's what matters, sticking with what makes you happy, no matter what. So what's your thing? What do you love that nobody can take away? Maybe it's something little, like kicking a soccer ball, or something big, like dreaming up stories. Whatever it is, hold on to it. Don't let the Karens of the world stop you. They might try, they might yell or point or act all big, but they don't always win. Karen didn't. She thought she could, but she was wrong. And I bet there's a Karen out there who's wrong about you too. Keep going, and you'll see. This story's done, but it's not really the end. It's more like a beginning for me, for the neighborhood, maybe even for you. I'll keep riding my bike, exploring the streets, having fun. The cop told me to, and I'm not gonna argue with that. And you? You've got your own adventures waiting. Maybe you'll run into a Karen someday, or maybe you already have. Either way, you know what to do now. Smile, keep going, let them crash if they're gonna crash. You've got this. Thanks for sticking with me through all this craziness. It was a wild one, wasn't it? A kid, a bike, a nosy lady, and a big, juicy twist. I had fun telling it, and I hope you had fun hearing it. There's more where this came from, more stories, more surprises, so stick around. See you in the next one. Drop that comment, hit that thumbs up, and let's keep the good stuff going. Bye for now.